I'm going to go ahead and start this. Thank you, everybody, for being here. First of all, I know you have a choice, obviously, in things that you want to do, and I hope to make this time worth it for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. I practiced this, so maybe it won't mess up. Look at me. Yeah. All right, so hopefully you guys are seeing the Salt Lake County Aging Adult Services evidence-based programs. Okay, great. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about the programs that we have here at Salt Lake County. And of course, many of you on this call know about many of these programs. But I do want to just spend a very short amount of time talking about them. And these are the programs that I'm actually in charge of. We have a lot of wonderful programs. We have 3 health educators on staff, and each one does different programs. And these are mine. So I do Walk with Ease, the Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program, which we have the acronym of AFEP, and Enhanced Fitness. And hopefully you're at least familiar with some of these programs. They're all evidence-based, and I wanted to just talk really quick. This is going to be a 7-minute thing, so don't lose interest. I'm going to talk about protein. What is evidence-based? And a lot of people, I mean, I think we know what it means by the name, basically, but at the same time, I wanted to expand on it. And that means that they've had random controlled trials on all of the programs that are called evidence-based. That means they're research-backed, that research has shown that the programs that we're promoting and the results that are attached to them have been proven. They're peer-reviewed, so it's not just something that's kind of thrown out there randomly. And the proven results. So, for example, if you decide to join our Walk with Ease program, and one of the benefits is you will start a walking program, and you'll see these different benefits, maybe reduced pain or increased leg strength. You know what I mean? I'm not saying specifically that that's a Walk with Ease result, but if it was to tell you that was, see if the program. Walk with Ease is a program. This is now I feel like I've worked for Salt Lake County since May of 2019. So I was on the job in person for as long as I've been on the job at home. So I feel like I have 2 different jobs. The original Walk with Ease was a 6-week program. We met in person 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually. And there would be about a 15-minute education. And then you would walk. So we would meet at a senior center or a rec center that had an indoor track, and we'd actually spend 5, 10, 20, 25 minutes walking around that track. And so hopefully by the end of those 6 weeks, you had developed friendships with these people, you had developed a routine with these people, and that you could keep that walking routine. Right now, we're offering an online version of Walk with Ease, and you can imagine it doesn't translate as well as the in-person, but we still meet once a week. We do the education. We talk about the different education points of the program, and then now we're actually having people move. We're having you warm up. We're doing the stretches. We're having you move around and then doing the stretches again, so that you're not just doing what we're doing now, which is sitting, right, and listening. So that's a program that we're offering, and it's for everybody. Yes, it was developed by the Arthritis Foundation, and it has a lot of focus on arthritis, but it's for anybody who wants to either start or maintain a walking program. I'm also in charge of Enhanced Fitness. Enhanced Fitness might be the better known class that's under my umbrella. It was developed by Sound Generation, which is in Seattle, Washington, and the University of Washington. Evidence-based, obviously. It includes cardiovascular strength, balance, and flexibility components to it. So it's an hour-long class. We offer it 3 days a week, again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So to get the results, you need to come to that class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. for at least 4 months to see the improvement in your strength and in your balance, in your cardiovascular health, and in your flexibility and mobility. It is led by a certified group exercise instructor, which is kind of a plus. That's not always something that you need, but it is helpful unless you have somebody who's just really experienced in what they're doing.
Paige, excuse me.
Yep.
How do we access the enhanced fitness class?
Well, right now we have 2 enhanced fitness classes and they are full. So you can contact me if you have my email, and I will put it in the chat. And you can just say, hey, put me on the wait list. You know, we have an 8 and a 9 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. When people drop out, I will add people from the wait list. Will people drop out? That probably not with any sort of regularity, but that doesn't mean people do. And also, I'm hoping to add a class. You know, fingers crossed on that. We do offer it online. It finally was cleared to be offered online. I know a few of you on this call are in that class. And I think it's going well. I think it does translate pretty well. If you're motivated to turn on your computer, of course, Allison's giving me the thumbs up. You have to be motivated to turn on that computer and do your exercise by yourself. But I think that we do a pretty good job. And there is some social aspect to it, just like you get in person, which is really nice. I like that a lot. And then last, I am in charge of the Arthritis Foundation exercise program. And I got to tell you, this program has really, all of them have become pretty important to me. But truth be told, AFEP was the last one that I really got involved with. And it is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Like Enhanced Fitness, it addresses the strength, cardiovascular, flexibility, and balance aspects. And those are the 4 areas of exercise that anybody needs, but especially older adults need. And it's appropriate for people with and without arthritis. The difference between the AFEP and the Enhanced Fitness really is kind of how they're taught. There's a little bit more flexibility with the Arthritis Foundation exercise program. Right now, we are offering a standing version and a seated version. The standing version is with Jackie, who is wildly popular. That's another one that is already full. If you want to get into it, you can always get on a wait list, and then I will do my best to get you into it. And we offer a seated version, which has also become fairly popular, which I'm super excited about. I teach that, and I love it. This is the thing that I like about AFEP is it has a longer warm up. So for those people who find that they need a longer time to get their bodies going, that's what this class has. And honestly, I know I need a good 10-minute, 15-minute warm up these days. I just do, no matter what I'm doing. So it just has a little bit more focus on that. These are all being offered through our virtual senior center. I am always a resource. You can always call me and say, hey, Paige, what the heck? You can call the virtual senior center and talk with them about it. You can always email me. But luckily, we are offering all of these online. And when we get back to in-person, which I don't know when that will be, hopefully we'll continue to offer those online, because I think that the online version does have its place. Are there any questions about these classes? All right, if you do have one, shout it out. Otherwise, we are going to get started with protein. What's the big deal? Right? What's the big deal about protein? I love talking about protein because I love talking about muscles and strong bones. Anything strong, I love. So yay on the protein stuff. But let's talk about why protein is important for our bodies. And many of you probably know it's a macronutrient. So macronutrients are fat, protein, carbohydrates. Some will say fiber is a macronutrient. And it's the stuff that we need really large amounts of in our bodies. Also, we don't store protein. So once your body's used protein, you've got to replenish it. So that's one of the hard parts is sometimes people might think, well, I had a good salmon dinner last night. I'm probably set for a while. No, you're not set for a while. It's like gas in your car. It's even different than gas in your car because we don't have to gas our cars but once every month now, right? But it used to be once every couple of weeks or week. It's like sleep. You need it on a regular basis. Um, and the reason why is because it's so important for our bodies. It's essential for bone and muscle health. So those of you who are concerned about osteoporosis, osteopenia, you're concerned about maintaining your strength as you grow older, I could give this exact same presentation to 20-year-olds. The more I work with older adults, the more I realize we're just regular old people. Our bodies are exactly the same. There are some differences as we grow older, but the role of protein, not so much. Super important. The reason that we emphasize it with the older adults is because we do grow a little bit more concerned about our bone health and our muscle health, our strength, because strength, of course, independence, right? It also aids in tissue repair, and so body's natural defense. So obviously, if you break a bone, that protein is going to be very important when we're looking at healing the bone, healing the muscles that are attached to the bone. It just in general, if you cut your skin, it's just a really important element of repair for our bodies. So if we want to be able to heal, we need to have that protein. It's found in most parts of our body. It's not just muscle. And truth be told, I learned a lot the first few times I gave this workshop. It's not just in our muscle. And honestly, I didn't even know that it was really in our bone. But it is. It's found in most parts of our body and instrumental in organ health. So you want to keep your liver healthy, your heart healthy, and the heart's a muscle, but just the organs, right, themselves, your kidneys. It's really an important building block for our organ health. And then, of course, our blood health, right? To keep that healthy blood, iron is one of the big components of, usually found with protein. And so that has a lot to do with us keeping our blood healthy. And healthy blood's super important. And a lot of this stuff is really outside my particular scope of practice. So if you really want to know more about how protein aids in our blood health and in our organ tissue and that kind of thing, that would be something that you could always talk with your healthcare provider about. But here comes the stuff that I'm really going to focus on, which is it aids in our meal satiety. What is that word? How do you say that word? Doesn't really matter. Feeling satisfied after you eat a meal. Like Garfield here, after he ate a meal. Just to be clear, you don't have to have a big belly after you eat a meal, and you don't need to be tired after you have a meal to be satisfied by that meal. So what I mean is, I think we've all had the experience of eating a meal and being very hungry not too long after eating that meal. For example, I did an experiment on myself where I ate my breakfast cereal in the morning. This was back when I was eating breakfast cereals, and I ate healthy breakfast cereal. And then I would see how hungry am I at lunch. And I was the same amount of hunger, if not more, at lunch than I was at, I was the same. What I did was I ate breakfast cereal, and then I also didn't eat breakfast cereal, and I compared the two, right? So one of the problems with my breakfast sometimes is I just didn't have the protein in it. I had a lot of carbohydrates, right? I don't eat a lot of dairy, so I wasn't getting that protein. And protein really does help us gain the benefit of that meal for longer. And part of that is, and again, this is kind of outside of my scope of practice, talk to your registered dietitian about this, but protein is kind of a slow release thing. There's different kinds of proteins. There's fast acting proteins and there's slower acting proteins. So if you eat a protein that kind of has a good variety of proteins within it, you're going to get a nice release of protein over the next 4 to 6 hours rather than immediately with that meal. And that's why it helps us to feeling satisfied, to not feeling hungry. And part of this is hormone regulation, right? We have these hormones in our bodies that tell us, hey, you're hungry, you need to eat. And then we have these hormones in our bodies that say, you know what, you're satisfied, you're good. And it comes down to getting those hormones regulated. And this goes into diabetes, right? This goes into insulin resistance. All of this is very much tied up in that hormone regulation. So protein is going to be a big component of that. Great conversation to have with your registered dietitian if you have one. So let's talk about the daily recommended protein intake. And just to be very clear, I am not a registered dietitian. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a group exercise instructor. I have a master's in kinesiology. Getting down to specifically recommending or prescribing food content to people, that's not what I do. But I do and am allowed to educate on these types of things. And one of the problems with food, maybe you guys have experienced this, is it's confusing. It's super confusing. We're getting a whole bunch of different information from a ton of different people. And sometimes it's hard to really figure out what they're trying to say. So that's what I'm trying to do is make it something that we can understand as regular people. So daily recommended protein intake. It used to be that the recommended amount was 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So as Americans, not only do we have to switch over our body weight, right? We got to go from pounds to kilograms. So that's the first thing you got to Google if you don't already know how to do it. Switch it over to kilograms and then multiply it by 0.8. And I'm going to go into that. So you don't need to do too much of that. But so I used an example of a 140-pound person. That's 53 grams of protein per day that we need to take in. That's for a sedentary person who weighs 140 pounds. All right. And the good and the bad news is it's higher for active people, and it's just simply higher for older adults. And what is an older adult? They're probably saying over 60 is basically when you are outside of that 0.8 grams that you need more than that. So, and again, if you have questions, unmute yourself, yell at me, put it in the chat. Maybe Marianne, if you're still on the call, if you can watch that chat for me, I'll watch it every once in a while as well. Whoops. Whoa. Hey, getting ahead of myself here. So for the older adult and for the active older adult, and I'm telling you right now, just from the few screens I can see, I know there are active people on this call who happen to be older adults because you're involved with us. So you fall into this category. 1.2 kilograms, I mean 1.2 grams per kilogram of your body weight. So that goes from that 140-pound person, from that 53 grams of protein to 77 grams of protein. And we're going to talk about protein and what's in, what foods have protein and different things. But so all of you know that there's those, what are they? The nutrition labels on food. Start looking at that. Start looking at how much protein is in this food. And if you are, yes, I will repeat that. Just hang tight. If you are thinking that you're getting your protein, do some calculation, add it up and see, because just because something has 4 grams of protein and you're needing to get 77 grams of protein, you know what I mean? You're going to really need to eat a lot of whatever that is. So I got asked to do the formula again. The daily recommended amount of protein varies between 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight to 1.2, and really even higher now, grams per kilogram of your body weight. So basically you need to take what you weigh, convert it into kilograms, which I don't know what that is, dividing by 2.2 or something along those lines. You can Google that very easily. There'll be a calculator. to get how many kilograms you weigh, and then you multiply that number by 0.8 or 1.2, and that will tell you how many grams that you need to eat per day. So how much so you might be thinking, okay, well, I know that I could eat a huge steak and I'm going to get my 50 grams or my 70 grams of protein. And here's another real kicker when it comes to protein. Our body can only absorb so much protein at a time. So what tends to happen with people that I've worked with is it's not that they never have protein, they do, but they only have it one time a day. They have a good protein in their breakfast, or they have a good protein in their dinner, and that's it. If we really look at their eating habits throughout the rest of the day, we're just not seeing high protein foods. And a lot of people will say, well, I have some almonds with my salad for lunch. Well, that's great. You've gotten very little protein with those almonds. I'm not saying that that's not an okay thing to do, but it's not going to provide you with the protein that you need to hit those 77 grams if you're an active 140-pound person. Does that make sense? Kind of, right? So, and then again, that whole kicker thing is we can only absorb about 25 to 35 grams at a time. So we want to, let's stick with that 77 grams. So I'm going to go back to this. So again, looking at this 140-pound active person needs 77 grams of protein a day. You can kind of guesstimate what you might need to take in. If I'm going to have 77 grams of protein a day, I really want to break it up by 25 to 35 grams per meal if I'm having 3 meals a day, or less if I'm going to eat 3 or 4 or 5 meals a day, because I know some people do that, and that's great. But we don't want to eat more than those 35 grams in any one meal, and adding that to our daily total. So let's say that you have 50 grams of protein at your dinner. Well, you still only need to count about 35 of those, because that's how much our body can absorb. So hopefully that makes sense. That's why one of the things that I tell the people that I work with is you should always have a protein with any snack that you have. So any mini meal, that's what I try to call snacks. A snack should be a mini meal. It should be a meal that's smaller, and it should have complex carbohydrates, fats, and protein in it. But most of the time, snacks don't. They have simple carbohydrates, and that's about it, right? Because they're snack food. So we want to really think about when we're having our protein, how much protein we're having at a time. All right, just checking the time here. So I said this, you need to eat protein throughout your day. We're going to talk about a few things. Animal protein. I know that there are vegetarians and maybe even vegans on this phone call, right? And we'll address that. But just to start off, it just goes as fact that you're going to get more protein from animal protein. Doesn't mean that you have to eat animal protein. I totally respect those who choose not to eat it. Just know that you just need to be a bit more aware of it. If you're eating animal protein, you have every opportunity to be eating the protein that you need. And, animal protein is chicken, eggs, beef, dairy, pork, fish, any type of fish, salmon, tuna, sardines. Sardines. Do I have any sardine lovers on the call? Anybody else eat sardines? Okay, good. If you like tuna, try sardines. They're even better for you. And, they're so good for you. They're sardines. Anyway, I get off topic. Animal protein. It's easy, right? You get a good wallop of protein from your animal protein. From your animal protein. So I know that some recommendations are that you not eat animal protein at every meal. I think one way to get around that is to vary what animal protein you're eating at each meal. So let's say that you have chicken at lunch. Well, maybe you have a fish at dinner if you're able or willing to eat animal protein. Let's talk about vegetables. High protein vegetables, dark leafy greens, the greens that no one wants to eat, and nuts and seeds. And I say nuts and seeds very lightly. I think nuts. The problem with nuts and relying on nuts for your protein is you have to eat a lot of nuts to get the protein you need, and a lot of nuts aren't great for. That's when we're eating outside of moderation, because nuts aren't just protein. So the dark leafy greens, I love dark leafy greens. I eat them all the time. I love kale. I love bok choy. Not bok choys, mustard greens, collard greens. Those are great for your protein as far as vegetables go. You can see here, I have this little poster. I'm trying to read it. It has green peas, 1 cup has 8.6 grams of protein. 1 cup of green peas has 8.6 grams of protein. So you're going to have to eat some peas to get the protein that you need, right? Spinach, 1 cup, 5.2. We got avocados, 4.6. So if you can eat 3 cups of vegetables, you can get your protein, but you're going to have to eat some vegetables. Kale is actually a little bit lower on the scale. I eat a lot of kale, but 3.5 grams of protein. So we definitely have some protein out there. In our vegetables, and included in this is mushrooms and potatoes, corn, right? So vegetables are a good source of protein. You're just not getting a ton of protein for how much vegetables we usually eat. I know there are probably people out there that really eat their vegetables, and that's great, but you really do need to do that to get the protein from them. So let's talk about the vegetarian versus the non-vegetarian and the vegan also. I found this advertisement. Now, it was online, but a lot of times we look online, and that's where we get some of our information, right? And this is saying that, do you really need meat to get protein? And they're like, no, you don't. You can get all you need from your vegetables. And I'm not negating that, but you don't, the amount of, what they're saying is per calorie of beef versus per calorie of broccoli. And I wanted to do a little bit of visual for you to kind of show the differences between how much broccoli you need to eat versus how much beef you need to eat to get the same amount of protein. So these aren't the best pictures, but I wanted to give a little bit of visual representation here. I have the 2 nutrition labels. One is for 100 grams of broccoli and one's for 100 grams of chicken. For 100 grams of chicken, you're getting 24 grams of protein. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's 100 grams of chicken. You kind of see that. And that looks like a more than what I would eat, probably. I don't know, I can't tell. Those look like they could be chicken tender type things as opposed to big breasts. But still, just to give you an idea of how much you need to eat. And then you can see that for 100 grams of broccoli, you get 2.4 grams of protein. And look at how much broccoli 100 grams is. There's a lot of broccoli. If I ate that much broccoli, not only would my digestive system hate me, but I don't know that I could eat that much broccoli, and I love broccoli. So it's not that you can't get protein from vegetables. You can, but you do need to eat a lot of vegetables. And in my experience, I just don't find people that really eat a lot of vegetables. So if you're one of those people who's like, hey man, I eat a ton of vegetables, I eat a morning, noon, night, then you are good. But if you're one of those people who's like, well, I have vegetables, on the side, hopefully it's on the side of some animal protein so that you're going to be getting your protein from that animal protein. But either way, it's just to kind of give you an idea of how you need to eat to make sure that you're getting your protein. And here's another really interesting poster that I found that kind of just shows again the amount of protein in different sources. And you can see again the animal protein is going to be the highest. Again, that doesn't mean that that's the only way you can get it. Just be aware, educate yourself so that you know the foods that you're eating, how much protein is in them. Because we get a lot of different information out there. We get people telling us, hey, if you eat this, you're getting a ton of protein. Well, that might not be the case. You need to make sure that you understand how much protein you're getting. I wanted to point you to these purple lines here for the rice protein powder and hemp protein powder, because I want to talk about supplements. That's usually a question I get when I do, presentations like this, which is, what about supplements? Can I just get my protein from supplements? And you absolutely can. And supplements are used, I think, with two main populations. The weightlifting or the athletic population, they do a lot of protein supplement, and the older adults do a lot of protein supplements. I would assume that most doctors, most healthcare providers would encourage you to get your protein from food, from real food. But if you just cannot get those 77 grams of protein from your food, then absolutely supplementing your protein intake is a good avenue to go with. And there's wonderful protein supplements on the market today. There are animal protein supplements and there are vegetable protein supplements. So vegetarians also have the opportunity, finally, they didn't for a long time, to have vegetable protein supplements. So if you're looking at this thinking, well, I know I can't get in 70 grams of protein, I don't want to eat that much. And that's one of the things we run into, again, as a gross generalization, older adults just don't eat as much. Maybe they eat as much, but maybe not nutrient-rich food. Maybe your taste change, maybe dental realities make it so that you don't want to eat meat anymore. Our taste change, our sense of smell changes. We change, right? We're people, and we change. What we used to like, we don't like anymore. And I think that's one of the things that we really find is that the older adult just doesn't eat as much food as they need to, and that's where supplements become really important. And so, that's something to talk to your registered dietitian about. I mentioned the registered dietitian a lot because I think if you're going to talk about your nutritional intake, talking to your healthcare provider probably isn't your best bet. I would go with a registered dietitian. And I do a registered dietitian that is involved with the same things that you're involved with. Go to a registered dietitian who's athletic, if you are athletic, because he or she is going to be more on the same page as you are as far as what you're eating, and be honest with them about what you're eating. I have a little box here. Remember to look at the ingredients as well as the protein, right? So there's, going back in slides, we got this thing right here, this big old whey protein. This has 60 grams of protein. That's great, except we can only absorb about 35 grams of protein. So that's a lot of wasted chemical that I'm putting in my body. That's a lot of wasted supplement that I'm putting in my body. So this would not be a smart thing for me or for any of us on this meeting to purchase, unless we want to do like a half serving, a half size of it. So that's one of the things that you need to be aware of when you're doing your supplements. So supplements, just like whole foods, you need to educate yourself and know what you're putting in your body and know what purposes it's serving, especially as far as protein goes. So the takeaways from today, 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight for active people and older adults. I did not put that on there, but that is the current, at least as far as I know, recommendation for protein. So we all have some calculations to do. If you know that you eat 3 or 4 meals a day and they all have a good protein content to them, then great. When was the last time you actually added up your protein content? If you haven't done it in a while, do it again. Make sure you're getting that protein that you need. If you're not and you're thinking, there's no way I can eat more protein, then that's when you need to talk with somebody about supplements and how they're going to work for you. Whole foods first, supplements second. And that's just a general rule. If you can get your micronutrients from whole foods, that's way better than vitamins. But it's hard. It's hard to get them all. So that's why we have vitamins. And protein's hard because you have to get it from food. You can't go outside and sit in the sun and get, protein magically, like you can with other things. Okay, so I wanted to also point out that I just saw this. This is something else that I'm involved with, and they had this updated 2020 to 2025 dietary guidelines. And I'm going to put this in the chat. This is why I put this on here, was because I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to have to go back. But I'll put it in the chat when I close this out. But this is, it's a multi-page document. And it talks about in general, it talks about pregnant women, it talks about older adults, it talks about kids. And it's always good to know what recommendations are. They are changing. Usually they're going up, right? You're upping the recommendations that they have for people. But I will put this in the chat if you're interested in bringing it up on your computer and downloading it. I think it would be of an interesting read for sure. There is no protein in diet soda, so that's not something you can tell me that why you're drinking your diet sodas for protein. Protein enriched diet soda, don't fall for it. Fortified foods. Fortified foods are good. They're a little ridiculous sometimes, right? We look at foods that obviously don't have any protein in them, but they fortify them with protein, and so all of a sudden you think you're getting protein. You are, but remember, it's supplemental protein. Is that the best supplement? Is that the way you want to go? Again, talking to your registered dietitian or healthcare provider about that. All right, so I want to answer some questions that you might have. And before I do that, I want to remind you all that we have next week's Healthy at Home webinar. It's led by my fellow health educator, Erica Thompson. And she's going to be talking about New Year, New You. Come share your New Year's resolutions and learn how to make that goal achievable, which is always the thing, right? Making a resolution, but then making one that you can stick to and that you want to stick to. I think that's always the key thing to it. All right, so let me stop sharing here, get you guys in front of me, and then I'll put this in the chat. Are there any questions? And if you have a question, unmute. Because I can't unmute you. No questions?
So I have a question. Okay. So do you have some other recommended resources? I know you're putting that dietary guidelines one in the chat box. Any other resources you're aware of for us to find, like protein content or good sources of protein or that sort of thing?
Well, actually, and I meant to talk about this. I mean, there are a lot of things online that are helpful, and legit. But let's look at this screen. Are y'all seeing that screen again with the picture? So sources of protein, again, we talked kind of about the animal protein. It comes down to animal protein, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds. You know, that's where you're basically going to get your protein from outside of supplements, outside of fortified foods. And I did look, WebMD, John Hopkins University, the major universities. A lot of what I would do is if you're looking for protein sources, is to go with a well-known source. Not just somebody who's got a blog. Nothing against the people who have blogs. A lot of them know what they're talking about. But to make sure, I would go with a university or a hospital. But it's always kind of been the same. Our protein sources haven't changed. Dairy, again, dairy, chicken, beef. The things that change is what people are saying about protein content, about the manipulation of you don't have to eat meat, all you have to eat is vegetables. Well, that's true, but what they leave out is you got to eat a lot of vegetables, right? You got to eat a lot of them. So that's the stuff that you really want to be aware of is how much protein is in this food. And luckily we have those nutrition labels that can help us out nowadays. But I don't have a particular source that I go to, and that's just because I've been doing it long enough that I kind of know what they are, and that they really haven't changed. Some of the things that has, oh, there you go. Erica just put something else in the chat for you all that might be helpful. I think the things that gets really hard to navigate nutrition nowadays is fish. Let's talk about fish. Salmon. Salmon's a great source of protein. It's a great source of healthy oils. It's also a great source of mercury, right? So how much salmon do you want to eat? What kind of salmon do you want to eat? Do you want to eat wild caught or farmed? That's where it gets very, very confusing. Back in the day when we put our poles in the water and pulled out a salmon and cut it up and ate it, it wasn't complicated. But now it is. And so with that, again, I would just go with a trusted source, which is getting harder and harder with the internet. But we have the basic trusted sources out there, I think. I know that didn't really answer your question, Karen, but I meant to kind of point that out when I had that picture up. So Erica has put on the My Plate. And you're going to see a Medline Plus is great. Yes. Nutrition.gov. It's interesting. You're going to get a lot of different recommendations out there. I'm very biased, of course. I was on a call earlier today that said, hey, 2 cans of diet soda a day is moderate intake of diet soda. That just made me cry. I was like, what? What are you saying? That's horrible, horrible advice. But that's because I'm very anti artificial sweeteners. For some people, it's a way to not eat sugar, and that's their avenue. And for some people, only having 2 diet sodas a day is a step in the right direction. So, I mean, you have to take everything kind of with a grain of salt. But do know that you need protein. And as we age, we really need to make sure we're getting the protein, especially if you're planning on remaining independent and active. Protein is something you need to be preoccupied with. Make sure that you're getting it. So if you come across a source that tells you protein is important, that's not a source that you want to go with. It absolutely is. And at least that 0.8, if not more. Any additional questions out there? I am always available to you. I know many of you have my email. If you don't, you can always just email the general. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm going to put it in here just in case. How about I put it on lowercase? There is my email. You are always welcome to contact me with questions, specific questions that you might have. I'm always going to encourage you to get a registered dietitian, but again, one that kind of understands what you're looking for older, you know, that you're an active older adult. You're not just an older adult who's trying to slide through the rest of your life. You actually want to be active in it. And you can also probably.
Someone put in the chat, can you eat too much protein?
Yeah, I think that you can. For one, you can if you eat too much meat, you know, that can have some digestive realities. Just like if you eat too much broccoli, it can have digestive reality. If you eat too many beans, but I don't think that you can get a toxin from eating too much. I'm sure you can in certain situations.
It would be the number of calories you're getting, that if you were eating that much protein, you're getting too many calories.
It's a lot of wasted nutrients. And yeah, too many calories for not, you're tipping the scales between bang for the buck. You know, if you're eating something that has 25 grams of protein in it per meal, you're probably regulating your caloric intake, probably. That's the beauty of vegetables, right? Pretty low calorie, super high nutrient. Meat, not as much. You're getting high protein and some nutrients, but you got to watch your portion size, because all of a sudden you're going to get too many calories. So yes, thank you, Allison. You're going to just be probably have some digestive issues and just be taking too many calories without that nutritional punch. You know, always that balancing act. Anything else out there? Great. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate you all being here today. Again, hopefully this was really just to pique your interest and look for somebody who might have even a deeper understanding of protein and of you, so that they can help you figure out how much do I really need to be taking in. And again, just based on the names I see here, all of you fall into the category of active older adult. I say older adult because you're part of this call, but I know you're all active. So protein's super important. Thank you all for being here.